Hello, my name is Maria Miller, and today I will be showing you the books that I've read and the books I've received during Christmas break and when that time. So first I'm going to start with the books I've read. So the books I've read basically during the break, which is on the 16th for me, and here I'll show you. Here is The Nature of Space and Time by Stephen Hawking and Roger Penrose. The second book that I've read by Stephen Hawking this year. It's a very short book. I sped read it in a roughly two hours. It's wonderful. It wonderfully expands on the contents that was in Hawking's one of his most famous books, which was The Brief History of Time, which I had read in May, and this was wonderful because it was more like a banter-esque book between Hawking and Penrose. It was wonderful. It had the equations. I myself love equations, but most people don't understand equations. I don't either, but most of them don't want to deal with the possibility of not understanding it, or don't want to deal with possibly having to understand it given the text. But I do, and so it was wonderful. It showed the diagrams so you could understand it. There's a diagram. This diagram of the singularities and how they work out, given space and time. It was beautiful because it was a conversation between Hawking and Penrose. Penrose. One would propose a topic, the other one would respond. Then they'd go on to a new topic, and one would propose a topic, and the other one would respond. It was very similar to being in a conversation. Mostly a conversation where they had whiteboards, and they were able to write out their thoughts. I quite liked it. It was very consumable, and it was a beautiful build on the Brief History of Time. Now, the next book that I read was The Universe in Bite-Sized Chunks by Colin Stewart. I read this in an hour and 37 minutes. It's 230-ish pages. It doesn't have any equations, which is kind of a bummer. But it was still a wonderful book. It took some of, not basic, but some of the well-known terms in astronomy and defined them and gave stories behind them, then built up from basically Archimedes and Arabic and Greek philosophers and polymaths and their theories, what they thought, and their models, and built on it all the way up to even mentioned Einstein, general relativity, special relativity, of course no equations at all. Then went on to now and the experiments being done now and how the experiments are dealing with now is trying to understand Big Bang and Big Crunch, which is what's going to happen basically after the universe collapses. That's the theory. What's going to happen. Had beautiful pictures to really explain some of the stuff that those higher quantum physics books or higher physics books won't teach you. And that's what you would really want if you're going into that side of literature. So really, that'd be one of my first things that I recommend to somebody. This book specifically would be one of the first things that I would recommend to somebody who wants to go into physics, astronomy, and maybe are starting with not that good of a basis, mathematically or not. Then next I'm going to move on to some of the books that I got that I haven't read. So actually, here I went to Barnes & Noble, picked up this book. It's a beautiful book. I haven't finished reading it though. It is called The Prince by Niccolo Machiavelli. It's not what I expected. It's not quite a commentary. It's basically like a summarization and a tip, like a book of tips on how to assume principalities or regions of land in various ways in aftermath. It's roughly 120 pages. I haven't finished it yet, but I'm very close to being done with it. And it's quite short, but it very much so was like the Art of War Sun Tzu, but in medieval times, and more of the, not quite is conquering, has conquered, and is now trying to deal with starting from a either already laid down foundation or building one up for a region, and trying to best be in control of that without uprises. The next is Surely You're Joking, Mr. Freeman. This is what my friends got me for Christmas. We did a little gift exchange, and this is a Nobel-winning physicist. He's known for basically modern physics and quantum physics as well, and he's done lectures. He has gone through MIT and Princeton, and he's taught various students about physics. He has a doctorate in physics himself, and is talking about basically his life. I started reading the introduction and such, and starts talking about his early life, and then talking about everything onwards. Now this one is the last one I'll be presenting you today, which is the Sylvian Mind Myth Control by Jose Sylvia. So basically this is just a book which I was given to by a family member, which I also got a workbook for this specific book, which tells you how to control, how to better control yourself, and how to better have a better life, and how to better go around life, and it's quite good. I've only listened to some of it audiobook. I haven't actually read it yet. I'm very excited to do so, as well as that workbook. The books I read are predominantly physics or mathematics, and I don't find that on Book Talk, which I think is quite disappointing in my thoughts, because I'd love to see somebody who wants to read 24 hours straight of nonfiction, because everybody find fiction that you get narrative fiction, you get contemporary, you get romance, you get fantasy, you get those books, and you're like, okay, well, I'm gonna sit down and read that for 50 hours, and you just don't see that, because nonfiction isn't really a majority, is not really found in social media spaces regarding literature books, which I think is quite a pity, because technical writing and math-based nonfiction is so much so a minority of literature, and is not really given the attention that it really should. And most people who do TikToks are in their late teens, really early 20s to mid 20s. You're kind of pushing it with the 30s, and those women, but majority women, except a couple men like Jack Edwards and How to Train Your Dragon, mostly they read fiction. And if they do read nonfiction, it's biographies, that are non-mathematical. Generally, they're trying to get their way to have more representation, the gays, the people of color, which no problem with that. It's just I don't see the books I read anywhere. And so it's quite disappointing whenever I want some representation to feel like I'm part of something, and I go around to such a fiction and I see conservationists, like biographies of conservationists, no shame in their game. I just want some representation over here in my corner of physics and mathematics. I just don't see it. And so I'm hoping to do with this video is to really start a new side of my channel, me reviewing books, of me showing books I've gotten, and even me maybe doing vlogs. I'm not promising anything, maybe doing vlogs for books that I read, which warning will be primarily mathematical, science-based, quantum physics, classical physics, and financial, and a bit of self-help. Occasionally, really occasionally. Fiction, I've only read 3 fiction books this year out of 23 that I've read over the year. I'll also probably, if I do get around to doing this, I will want to make some videos about speed reading, as I learned how to speed read over the summer via YouTube, and that's now how I consume most of my books. And I think it would be wonderful to spread that around, because no one forced me. I thought it was a wonderful idea, and I think it is. So I think it would be wonderful if other people got to see maybe real time how that works. And ultimately, that's what's happening. So I want to kind of switch up my YouTube channel to be, at this point in time, to be booktube, but mathematical and science based, and self-help and financial, opposed to any nonfiction, any fiction. Again, no shade, no tea, because I have none. I just really want other people to have the representation that I want. I must say, Destiny, Sarah Crowley, that's how you pronounce her name, and Jack Edwards, Hartree Gavin, Mel, let's see, various other, Haley Pham, and various other booktubers I've watched and has really inspired me to get into reading over the last year. And I think it's quite wonderful what they do. And I've watched other YouTube channels become new, pop up, because of those people that I've named, and I think it's quite wonderful, the community that they have. They is relatively clean. Of course, every community has its darkened alleys, but overall, I believe it's a wonderful community, and I just want to add more representation. Well, I am Maria Miller, and like I did with my other videos, I want to send you off with a word of the day, which is, I'm going to do a relatively simple one. Literature. Literature meaning text, writing, book. Synonyms for literature is tomes, books, text, generally literary, which, literature. And if I have any people who watch this, can you please put down in the comments below literature, and can you please make a sentence? Can be very small, can be very big, or even maybe a paragraph, and I'll even start myself with the word literature inside of it, and I'll like it, and I may even pin it. Of course, none of this is a promise. I just really wanted to come back in and do all this. Well, either way, thank you so much. Have a wonderful day or night whenever you're seeing this.